Hi, Sheena here from Sheena.tv with a card that I'd like us to look at together, if you will. It's quite a large card, this one, and I think very summary and really suitable for maybe a family card with the little mother bird and the little babies there. I think it's really quite sweet for me anyway, sweet as it's going to get, put it that way. So quite a few techniques here, and the main products I'm going to be using are the stamp sets I'll mention is the a new leaf stamp set, which is the branch, the flowers and the leaves, and the freezer bird stamp set as well, where you're going to get this the bird images from. That'll be the clue in the title. So we shall get started. So the first thing we're going to do is create that resist background, which it wasn't immediately apparent, but it definitely makes a difference to the whole of the card, which I'll have a closer look at when we recap at the end. But I'm using, to start off with, some of my Sheena stamping card, which is, as this name suggests, perfect for stamping, perfect for using with your distress inks, perfect for using with any of your inks indeed, and paints, because it's a really good thick heavy GSM. So I've cut a square size. Normally I wouldn't do that. I would start off with a much larger piece of card and then trim it to get it nice and neat around the edges, but just for time, just so that we can carry on with the video, it's trimmed to the size I want it to be. Now we're going to create a resist, and there's a few ways around this, so I'm going to give you well, a few of them, not all of them because there are more. But what we want to do to create a resist is basically we want a kind of paint or medium which will repel a water-based other paint. That's what we're going to do. So something that will create a plasticky surface that will resist a less strong paint with a less strong binder in it. So it sounds a bit technical, but the easiest thing to show you is one option. I'm using some Bindex from Pebeo. So that's one option. The other option I could use is maybe even some white acrylic from also Pebeo. Any white acrylic's good. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a large brush and I'm going to sweep across this card. Now this is where, if you're using the Bindex especially, you're going to find out if your brush is clean, because if it's not and it's got any paint in it, you're not going to be looking at white through this. You're going to be looking at whatever colour is going to come off your brush and mix into the Bindex, and it ain't going to be pretty. Now, so that's one option. The other option might be the white paint. So can you see, you're going to get a slightly different colour on the white card. I don't know if you can pick it up or not, but whatever you've got, both work great. And just, for the sake of showing you more than one product, so, you can play, hopefully, with what you've got in your craft room. I've put both on there. I wouldn't normally use them both. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to dry them. And then we're going to do the colour part. Fingers along there. Okay, see you in a sec. Okay, so now these should have this, the paints that are hopefully going to act as a resist. We'll soon find out. So what I'm going to use is a paint that normally you wouldn't use as a resist, because the thing is I'm using silks by Luminart now. Now the silks are designed to go on any surface, including shiny surfaces, because the binder in them is an acrylic binder. So it's going to sit on top of those resist items like the Bindex and the acrylic paint. But what we can do to get around that is to water them down quite a bit. So if we take some of the silks out, pop them on your mat or whatever you're using to mix your paints, and add quite a bit of water. What you're doing is you're diluting that binding agent that's in there so that it doesn't have the strength to cling to the areas you don't want it to cling to. And what you should hopefully get is a really nice, very pale, kind of glimmery kind of wash there, kind of like wood washed paint. And if you want it a little bit darker, go ahead and add a little bit more paint on there and don't dilute it quite as much. But hopefully you'll see that you're still getting that resist. What will happen is it'll soak into the exposed card more than it will where you've applied the Bindex or the white acrylic. Now there's another way you can do it, which I'm going to talk you through in a sec. Quite the opposite to what we've done, where we've used the silks as the medium that's going to act as the resist. And if I'm doing your heads in at the minute, I apologise, but we'll go through it and hopefully explain what I'm talking about. So can you see how that's just going on there? Really nice pale wash. And then when we dry that, you'll still be able to see where the paper, like I said, has soaked in more of the pigment, more of the colour. And then we'll get to doing the other bit, but hopefully you can see that. And then what I'll do is I'll just show you the card again and explain what I've done. So in this instance, what I've done is I've used the ice, Silk's Ice as the resist part instead of the acrylic paint or the Bindex, and I've used some Distress inks, really watered down a lot, to brush over the card. So the sparkly bit on this one is the ice areas. So there's two options there to go for that, and then we'll talk about the stamping and colouring of these elements. Okay, so now that's dry, but what you'll find is when you dry it, because you've wet it quite a bit, it might warp a little bit. So just to make things easier for continuing with the rest of the video, I've actually matted it already on some black card, which I would have done maybe after I'd stuck the background down. But so that's a little bit, you know, back to front, but it just keeps it neater. So the next thing to look at is the placement and the positioning of the branches. Now, on this card, I went straight in and I stamped the branches from the new leaf stamp set onto the background. But that can be a little bit scary for, you know, not quite knowing where you're going to position everything. So an alternative would be to stamp the branches onto some of the stamping card and stays on, then cut them out and colour them, which is what I've done here, which actually is a lot easier than doing it the way I said. So to colour them, I have used just a little bit of Distress ink, and just, it doesn't need to be too fancy because you're not going to see much of them, so you don't have to go, you know, too heavy on lots of colours and shading and things. But a little bit of walnut there, little bit, actually what a little tip is, if you can decide which branch is going to go that way and which branch is going to go that way, I like to, if I can, make it darker at the bottom. So this one I've got dark at the bottom here, so it's going to go from right to left, and this one I'll make dark at the bottom, so this one can come into the card from left to right. Now I might not be even using all of the branch, but I'm just going to colour it anyway at this stage. And when you're colouring it, just go over the edges a little bit as well, so that you don't see that white card showing through. And that's really all you need to do. It doesn't have to be any fancier than that. There you go, so they're ready to go on. Next thing you want to do is stamp some of the leaves out from that same set, and these are, I've just used the smaller leaves here. There's another leaf that's exactly the same but larger, and to colour that, those ones, all I've used is some peeled paint. So really easy to do. Just put a lighter wash over, so dilute the paint quite a bit for the first layer, and just for speed, just wash over the leaves like this. Just put some green over the whole of the leaves. And probably it would be easier if you did it before you cut them out. However, if you do it after you cut them out, you're going to take care of any white edges around the card. So there's kind of a plus and a minus to both sides. And then use some of the darker, the neater paint, and you can go over and create a little shadow, or make it darker at the base, or up the middle, whichever way you want to do. Just makes them look a little bit more natural when you're popping them on the card there. So they're the leaves, really easy. And then finally I have stamped and cut out some flowers. So some large and some small these little cherry blossom flowers, which are also on that new leaf stamp set. And I want them really pale, but if you use something like warm lipstick, it's not warm lipstick, it's a really pale, can't remember off the top of my head, Distress ink, it's just too pale. So I've used a darker one like Picked Raspberry, because what I can do is just really water it down, really add a lot of water in it, and then just wash over the whole thing like that. And you've still got a really nice pale pink, but you've also got a little bit of more intense colour for shading towards putting a little bit of shadow in the centre of the petals, or maybe at the edges if you want to make it look like they're folding over. So this stronger colour you can just go ahead and just pop a little bit more intense in the centre, like that, and then just blend it if it's a little bit too strong. If you put it wet into wet, it's going to blend more. And then finally, touch of a yellow in the middle, little bit of this mustard seed. Mustard seed is really powerful, so the smallest amount's going to go a long way with that. You might want to dilute it quite a bit. And there your little flower's ready to pop the card together when we start constructing it. So we'll pop those to one side, and then we'll get ready to stamp the birds, which are the main focal point. So I've got my bird, which I've cut out. This is really quite a large image, as you can see, and I've cut it really close to the rubber. That's because I can, because it isn't mounted onto foam, because I know I'm going to be using my rocker blocks, the Sheena clear rocker blocks. So by being able to get really close to it, I've got much more accurate positioning, because of course I can see through clearly through the blocks as well. And I've adhered it to the block using some stick and spray, in case you're wondering. It's a Crafter's Companion product, and that's ready to go now. So I'm going to take some StazOn and I'm going to ink it up. I really want to make sure I've got this nice and dark, so I'm giving it some welly, because this isn't a new ink pad. So if your ink pad's quite new, you don't want to be pressing as much as that. And then we'll take it and just pop it on a piece of card. I've got a smaller piece of card. When you're using the large rocker blocks, just move your hands towards the centre when you rock forward, and press it down a little bit more than you would with the smaller ones, where you can hold them at the outside. What that's going to do is going to give you a lot more pressure in the centre, where you're going to need it, because the larger the block, the more likely you're going to the pressure is going to be dispersed over a larger area, and it might miss the middle of your image. So try that if you've had problems in the past. So now we've got a really nice, clean, well detailed image of the bird in StazOn, which lets me now colour it in using my distress inks, and it won't bleed the line. So I'm going to use some tumbled glass for the blue bits first of all. Now this is a really pale colour anyway, but I am just going to dilute it a little bit, because you can always make things darker, but making them lighter is a whole other thing. So we'll pop a little bit of blue on there, maybe a little bit on the end of his tail. It's up to you. Really, this is where the artistic license comes in, because, you know, I am not into, you know, I'm not a twitcher, whatever they call them. I don't know if that's you know, a good thing to say, if it's politically correct or whatever, but if it isn't, I apologise, but I have heard it said. But someone who watches birds, and so I don't know exactly what this one is, but in Sheena world it exists, and it's lovely. Right, okay, so there's a bit of blue on there, and then the next thing you're going to use is some frayed burlap, because I don't want the brown to be quite as dark as you know, something like the walnut, which I am using as well, but just to darken, just for the darker tones. So with the lighter brown, just add some water in there. So maybe start at the tail, and then you can see how dark or light you've got it, because it doesn't matter. I'm going to want to make it darker anyway at the tail, so I can just test out the colour there first. So I'm going to go over the whole thing, avoiding parts of that blue. Some of it I'll go over, but some of it I'll just want to leave, just, you know, the nice clean blue as well, just to get it a wash, and then I can go and darken some areas. Okay, now I can use some of the walnut and just make it a little bit darker, maybe under his wing, and that little shadow there, that's from his the wings casting onto his tail. Said he, didn't I? Should be a she really, shouldn't it? Okay, so that's that. and then a little bit of something like Rusty Hinge for the beak and the legs. So a little bit of Rusty Hinge, and I'm going to use it, oops, really dilute, just to put a wash over the beak. So you can see it's really orangey though, but then I can go over with a little bit of the burlap, just tone it down a little bit, and the same with these, with the legs. Now when you're looking at the chick, so that's that one done, I'm going to make the chicks a little bit lighter than the main bird. So same thing again, actually I'll go the opposite way. Let's put the brown on there first, and I'll just do one just so you can see how I've done it. So put the lighter brown on first, around the shadowy bits, and where you know you're not going to pop that little flash of blue. And then we'll pop some of this walnut, just where it's really shaded. And then we'll add the blue. So see the way the blue's kind of mixed in with the brown a little bit, just to tone it down, make it look a little bit more natural. Now don't worry about painting the log that they're sitting on, because when you cut them out you're going to cut that off there, which I'll show you I've done already with these ones. So when you cut it out you can cut around that little claws and get rid of that log, because we're going to substitute it for the branch from a new leaf. So go ahead, cut all those bits out, and then we'll regroup and stick the card together. Right, now, so hopefully you've got all those cut out. That'll be a bit of therapy there for you. Hope you'll be watching the Coronation Street or something when you were doing it. And what I've done is I'm going to use two different glues now for the next bit. I'm going to use some tacky glue, which is a white, really quick grab, strong, clear PVA type acrylic glue. This is probably my glue of choice. I use this one more than anything else. But also I'm going to use some Stick and Stay. Now the Stick and Stay is a spray-on glue, like very similar to the Stick and Spray I mentioned earlier to stick your stamps onto your blocks. But the clue's there with this one, the Stay bit. This one's going to be a permanent adhesive, but it does allow you to reposition, you know, for about a minute or so before it grabs. And all you do is pop your fiddly bits in a tray or a piece of paper, against a piece of paper like this, or a tray, and give it a good spray, and then let the like the propellant evaporate a little bit, and then you're good to go. So it's really much easier when you're handling these little fiddly bits like these branches and things, than using a white glue, which for me I will get everywhere because I am that messy. So see how well that's just stuck straight away. Brilliant, lovely. Now this one, I'll tell you what we'll do before we do the next bit. Let's pop the little robins, they would be rather cold, the little whatever they are, blue birds things there, and just pop them on the branch. And you can see how now they look like the little claws are around the branch that you want them to be on. So you would think that was all one stamp. Wonderful. Now, before you go ahead and stick this next branch on, take your larger bird and work out roughly where you want it to be. I think I'm going to want her about there, which means she's going to need something to sit on, which is going to be... Now here's a thing. What you can do, you don't have to use the whole branch. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little bit of tree surgery here, and I might even just snip that one off. There. Why not? These things happen. And then I think I'm going to pop that branch, try it again. Yeah, I'm going to pop it just about there. Hopefully that should do it. I tell you what, this is much easier with the Stick and Spray. I tried just the ordinary glue the last time, and I had it literally everywhere. I had to rub bits away where I'd caught it and everything. But much easier to use the right glue for the right job. So you can see how good that's looking hopefully already. We'll take this one now and we'll pop her. Now if your feet don't line up brilliantly with the branch, it doesn't matter, because that's where your florals and leaves are going to come in, because you can pop those over any areas you want to kind of disguise, which is what we're going to do next. So we've got the main characters in the set now, and next we're going to start sticking leaves and things on there. Now I haven't used the stick and spray for this because I want to just stick down part of the image, and I'll show you what I mean. I want to stick down just the base of the leaves, so just a little bit of glue like that, and then I can curl them up, and it just gives them a little bit of articulation, just a little bit of movement. I think it just makes them look a little bit more natural. So pop that on there. Let's do this little collection here, and then you can give you an idea of how to go on with it. Best thing, good tip as well from a friend of mine, Noreen Mackay, told me to store your glue upside down and it will always be ready for you to use. You know, simple things like that, and you just don't think of them, do you? Well, I don't. So there you go, and then you can take just little clumps. Now when you cut these little flowers, if you cut into them a little bit more with your scissors, you're going to be able to give them a little bit more shape and articulation. So spend some time just, you know, bending the petals up and giving them a bit more of a natural shape and look there. So what you're going to do, what I would do is probably lay these out first, see where you want them to go before you stick them down. But you can see already how that's working really well. Now if you want the larger flower, just to kind of take your eye to where that larger bird is, you can do that as well. We can pop this larger one, and if you need to cover up the feet, well, this is where this one's going to come in brilliantly, because you can maybe pop that one just there. A little bit of this twig that is hanging around that has the stick and stay on it, and I keep picking it up. It's like everywhere. I keep thinking I've thrown it away and it's still there. Right, okay, now I'm going to continue just sticking those on like that, but I'll show you what we've got. And it's up to you how much or little you want to put on there, but I think that's a really effective, I think that you could put that in a frame, to be honest. I just think it's such a really nice composition. Very shabby chic as well, very fashionable right now. So what we'll do is we'll recap with a finished card. Now, the thing, I'd actually like this paler background, to be honest. The other one's much stronger, but this is a much paler background, and I do like that with a little hint of colour. But this is the finished card. You can see exactly what we've just done. And then pop the little flowers there. It's entirely up to you how many leaves you want to put on there. You could put more on if you want. You can see that, you know, if you just, it depends how much you like cutting out, really, doesn't it? You know, just pop more on if you want. It's your call. There's no precise, you know, rules about where the florals have to go or how many you want to put on there. But another thing you can do if you want is, I've used a little bit of the clear silks, this one here, the ice jar, and I've painted the flowers. Actually I did it after one on the card. I just, it was an afterthought, but you know, so, and I think they look really pretty, to give them a little bit of a shiny bling. And I've also used a little bit of some stickles in the centre just to give them a little sparkle as well. And the wording here, this is also from the bird set of stamps. So, and if you're looking for anything, if you want to know any more inspiration, links to the videos, if you go to sheena.tv, they're all there. And if you want to buy any of these products, crafterscompanion.co.uk always have these products in stock. So all of my stamps, if that's the place to go for them. Brilliant. All right, and thank you very much, and I'll see you the next time.